Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Activities for People Living at Home with Dementia. We are proud to offer this series with funding from the Area Agency on Aging and the United Way of Tarrant County. These programs are recorded and some are made available for viewing through a YouTube channel for future use. I am Martha Brown, your host for today's activities. Today, Peggy Spear is bringing us her idea of portraits from the collection at the Amon Carter Museum of American Art. Peggy, you always surprise us, and we want to know what portraits are important today. Take it away, Miss Peggy.
All right. Thank you, Martha, for the setup.
Yes.
Okay, so we are looking at portraits in our collection, and most of these are actually on view right now. This first one, we just recently acquired in the last year, or I guess a couple of years ago, right before the pandemic hit. It's entitled Woman with Tiara. So tell me what you see.
A woman who is dressed up very nicely.
Yes.
Yes.
Very stately.
Very stately. That's a very good word choice. What kind of portraits do you typically see in this type of demeanor?
Royalty.
Oldie.
Royalty.
Royalty, yeah.
Yes, royalty.
Yes, exactly. So we are seeing okay, and you can't even tell because this is just removed from context. This is a 7-foot portrait.
Wow.
Oh,
It's massive. So it has that stately presence that Steve just said, and it mimics that of royal portraiture, of kings, of queens, the pose, the size of it. So what else about this makes this feel sort of royal?
There's posture and there's the way her arms are set.
Her posture, her arms, yeah, her demeanor. In the title, it says Tiara. So what does that indicate to you?
Crown.
Crown.
Tiara. Yeah.
What are
Or a
we
little
seeing?
crown, small crown.
A small crown. Or if you look closely at it, does that look like a typical tiara?
No,
What does it look like to you?
it looks like an ice pick.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, you're actually right, Martha.
Back
Looks
when
like-
you used to go to the ice house and pick up a 50-pounder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so it's not an ice pick, but you're right in that it's a tool.
Oh,
protractor?
Close.
yeah, that looks like the top.
Uh,
does.
A circumference, measuring circumference.
Okay, it is measuring your circumference, but it's specifically measuring the circumference of your head. It's that pharmacological, I know I'm saying it wrong. The study of phrenology, it's the tool that that pseudoscience basically would use to measure the dimensions of your head.
Mhm.
So you've probably seen the heads where there's like, if it's a bump here, it means you're this and you're this and you're this and you're this. That was a pseudoscience in the 1800s, 1900s. And it was pretty racist. It would give not the white people an inferior intellect because of their head shape. So here she's using her own hair. So you're not seeing the hand of the scientist, but she's using her own hair to support this kind of ancient tool and making it her own and owning it. And it's reframing, emboldening this Black woman with a tool that was once used against them. Because do you get the sense she feels less than or not confident? What demeanor, what is she putting forward about herself, her personality?
She's
me, it is-
overcoming. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, to me, it looks as I don't care what you think.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but that kind of not a very confident face, like, sure, think what you want,
yeah.
I don't care.
Rise above.
And her direct eye contact with us is facing it right on.
Mhm.
It's not ignoring us. It's looking at the problem head on and saying, sure, bring it.
Mhm.
And her posture, I mean, she's not cowering forward. She's not, her chin isn't down. Everything about her is positive.
Mhm.
She looks like she has a positive attitude totally.
Mhm. Yeah, and so he's attempting to reposition some of the beliefs and myths that often surround African American identity, Black identity. And so, we've seen pictures of enslaved people in the past where they're on their knees or their head is down or they're not dressed in sophisticated clothing. That's not this.
Mm-mm.
And so there's no mention of this being a real person that I've been able to find, but it's representative of young Black women and this new authority, or this, taking back of authority of who I am and what my worth is.
So just FYI, the tool is called a craniometer.
Craniometer.
Yes,
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you, Phil.
yes.
And what what science was this called again?
Phrenology.
Phrenology. That's the same one where they measured the bumps on your head to tell your fortune or something.
That's exactly right.
So this artist is, he is a Texas-based artist, Houston-based specifically. And he, this theme of repositioning Black culture, moving it from myth and systems of belief that people had and repositioning it is very common in his work. He went to his MFA is from UT Austin. We've had plenty of artists out of UT Austin that we've talked about. And so he's using popular culture, he's using science, and he's using history to create a new visual appearance. So again, we talked about the history being that fake science, that pseudoscience that was believed. People really believed it, but there's not much credibility behind it. He's using portraiture of royalty. And then he's using pop culture. So, things that, because phrenology was kind of something that was pop culture at the time, and and a science as well. So he's remashing these things together. It's on view now. Because it's on paper, it will only be on view for about 6 to 8 months.
Okay.
So it's in our portrait gallery right now. And if you are able to make it to the museum, it is stunning. I mean, it just stops you in your tracks in the gallery. It's really very cool artwork. And it's next to another massive 7-foot portrait as well. So it has a really cool of a white man standing. So it's got this really cool conversation happening.
Oh.
Okay, so we're going to
Wow.
leave our woman with tiara to another black and white portrait of someone who we know is a real person. Tell me what you see.
I see an Asian woman, maybe with a bonnet on.
Yes. How did you know that she was Asian or of an Asian heritage?
Well, the name Eiko is, I think, Japanese.
Exactly. So you were using the title to kind of give you some clues.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
You were using the title to give you clues.
Yes, I didn't. The view of the face is not very clear.
What else do we notice about her? What about the coloring do we notice?
Dark.
Kind of
Looks
spooky.
sad.
Yeah.
Yes, and sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Ruth Asaba, we've seen plenty of her work before. She was the one, if you can remember when we talked about, she had 6 children and she left San Francisco to go down to LA for 6 weeks to do the Tamarind workshop, and she ended up making food for all of the printers because she didn't have anything else to do.
Yeah.
This is that same artist. This is actually one of her children, one of her 6 kids. And so there's one series she did flowers, and we've looked at her flowers and cabbage before in the past. And then she did another series when she went back with, and I don't think it was the same stay. I think this was a different stay, where she did portraits of her children. And so this is a portrait of her daughter in profile. And what's cool about this one is the Tamarind workshop we've talked about is about the artist using a medium they don't typically use, and in this case it's lithography, and they're partnering and working with printers who are also masters in their field at printing. So there's these 2 different artists coming together to create a final product. So Ruth was working with this printer. His name is Kinji Akagawa, and we've talked about lithographs in the past, and I was a little shady on how to explain it to you. There is no engraving. I knew that was true. I don't know why I ever thought there was. There's no engraving when it comes to lithography. It's all using touche or grease-based materials on a stone. And then you put the grease base. I'm going to give you the steps. The block is polished limestone, and grease-based crayons and washes are drawn on it. Then the grease material is fixed to the surface with a gum arabic, and that's called the matrix. Okay, so then that's what the artwork will be pulled from. Once that matrix is set with the gum arabic, then you apply the ink over the grease and rinse it then with water. So the water rinses off the grease, but the ink absorbs in, and where there isn't grease, then the water will wipe that off. So then what the image is, the grease and the ink are together.
Okay.
At that point is when you could put the paper down. What they did, which was different, is they poured a chemical on it, an acetone. And so that's what's giving this kind of ghostly effect.
Yeah.
With this portrait. Then they put the paper on it, and that's what they then pulled the print from.
Okay.
So this was a really cool example of the artist and the printer experimenting with this medium, a medium that was kind of new to Ruth, or newer to Ruth, and that Kenji might have had some experience with. So then they worked together to create what this portrait is, and I think it's up right now on view, and in seeing it in person, it almost looks like it's backlit.
It does.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Peggy,
Yeah.
since there's such a close collaboration between the artist and the printer,
Mhm.
do they ever give attribution to that printer when they, display it? Or for instance, in your museum, is there an attribution to the printer?
Absolutely. And I don't always do it on here, because sometimes it matters. Sometimes, it always matters, but this particularly, almost every lithography we see from the Tamarind collection, the printer is always acknowledged in our database and everything like that, but it is acknowledged on our labels on the wall.
Okay.
And so this artwork is up right now, and it's in a Kinji Akagawa show. We're going to look at his artworks later in the month, but it's a show talking about him, but he's an artist and a printer, but this is an example of him as printing. So it really is an acknowledged print, or an acknowledged art and skill within art history.
Okay.
So I don't always include the printer just because of space and things like that, but yes, the printer is just as integral to the artist, or the printing of the art, because if you think about it, think if you were getting your wedding pictures printed and you went to a photography printer and they weren't that great and your pictures turned out bad, they could have been the best pictures, but if the printing quality was bad and the tones were off and things like that, it doesn't do justice to the work that the photographer did. So they have to be in step, and they have to be of equal quality to really make that artwork what it can be.
Mhm. How
And it's
far-
not a gelatin silver print. It's a lithograph. I didn't switch it out. Sorry, I was just copying and pasting from a past tombstone.
How far along in the art world would an artist have to be to begin to learn this particular method?
Some people out of the gate jump to lithography. Some people, I mean, this is the point of the Tamarin collection or the Tamarin workshop was these were established artists who had zero, if any, experience with lithography.
Mhm.
This was exposing them to that artwork to try to elevate that artwork in the United States. A lot of universities have lithography materials and printing accessibility. So there is probably your best bet where you would get to access that type of creativity because a lot of this stuff is a little harder to keep in your home or to travel with. So it's really just the preference. There's no entry, there's no gateway drug to getting to lithography. It's however you get there, you get there.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to go to another portrait that is currently on view. And this is a photograph. And it's much smaller. It's in the same gallery as the woman with the tiara. And this is only 20 by 16 inches. So it's a much smaller footprint on the wall.
Much smaller.
Okay, so what jumps out at you first?
Boxing gloves.
Boxing gloves.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love the poem.
Yeah, white patty, you don't shine, meet you around the corner and beat your behind. So we're the white patties. She's saying that
Yeah.
to us.
Yeah.
Okay, so she's got boxing gloves on. She's got fighting words below her. What else makes her seem like she's a tough number?
Her stance.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
Yeah. Her
yeah,
hand. Yeah.
she's got her dukes up.
And her face.
Yeah,
She's determined.
she is right. She's looking you dead on. Closed mouth. There's no cute smile. But then what softens her little fists?
The hearts on her sweater.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes, her heart's on her sweater. You know, and her little hair clips. I mean, she is a child acting like a tough number. And so this particular artist, this is from a series called Ain't Jokin'. And it takes the stereotype of Black violence and aggression, but then kind of turns it on its head and puts it through the lens of this little girl.
And she's even got barrettes in her hair and earrings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's not going to let anybody get close to her face.
But at the same time, I mean, she's a child, so you just want to like give her a sweet little hug. I mean, she just, you
Yeah.
know.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do you feel threatened by her or do you feel, what do you feel? How would you approach her if you saw her?
I'd cross the street.
I would, oh, go ahead, Phil.
No, it says she means business.
Do you mean
Yeah.
business?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, you know, how serious do we take her is, you know, part of the question when you're looking at this. But this kind of stuff does need to be taken seriously because, you know, as a child, her childhood as a Black child is probably very different than is very different than the child of a white child. And what
Yeah.
type of conversations are you having at home? And what kind of things have you witnessed your parents, your older siblings go through that make you have this kind of exterior, this demeanor?
I'd say bullying is a lot.
Mhm.
Bullying, right? So then there's just like the general childhood things too of bullying, but then let's throw in the whole added layer of race. I mean,
Yeah.
then it's
Yeah.
you know, it's whether you're a child or a grown-up, that type of
There's
bullying.
kind of a whole feeling of Muhammad Ali there.
Yeah,
saying,
that's right.
Yeah.
Come on in.
Yes, Phil.
Yeah,
She reminds me, it says, don't mess with me.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
Mhm.
Right. And threatening, meet you around the corner and beat your behind. I mean, she's got a little threat to it too.
I bet she's in Chicago.
I don't know where she is, but that's funny you think that. What makes you think that?
Um, I just, it looks like there was some sort of, I don't know, it just looks kind of like a northern city. This picture
I
was taken
get
in.
the sense that it's a northern city too. I have no idea where this photograph was taken. And it looks like she's in front of a pickup truck. You can see the cab
Yeah.
of the truck back there, and then maybe DODGE written on the back of that.
Yep.
Great.
Oh, thank you. I was trying to think of what brand that might be.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
Dodge.
Todd.
Yeah.
If it's Canada, it'd be GO Fargo. That was the Dodge brand in Canada.
Oh,
Oh,
really?
okay.
Oh, I didn't know that, Steve. Thank you.
So this,
Dusty, you're on mute. If you'd like to unmute yourself, we'd love to hear what you have to say.
He didn't hear you.
we might be looking for that unmute button.
Could be.
But this particular artist, Carrie Mae Weems, is a living artist, has been working for the past 40 plus years and has really dealt with complexities of family dynamics and history and political systems, and particularly as it relates to race. So she's a MacArthur genius. I mean, she's someone who's made a lot of noise in the art history world. So now that you know her name, you might see her name pop up more.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right, we've got one more portrait, and this one is not on view, but I feel like we talk about this guy so much, you probably want to put a face to the
Oh,
name.
yes.
Frank Eugene.
Alfred Stieglitz.
Alfred Stieglitz.
Oh, really?
Boy,
He
those are
is,
deep set eyes.
Oh,
yeah. And that mustache, he is not playing with that mustache.
No, no.
no, and the
Has anyone
hair.
had a mustache that bushy?
Hair.
Yeah, bushy.
No.
And that takes years of growing.
Hmm.
So this is our avant-garde photographer, Mr. Alfred Stieglitz, Georgia O'Keeffe's husband.
Mhm.
He had his friend Frank Eugene take this portrait, and it appeared in one of their magazines. They had like a publication that went out, and this is where that portrait originally appeared. And they were both founders of the Photo Succession Group, which were the first group of influential photographers in the United States. And we've talked about Stieglitz before. He and his cronies like Frank Eugene, really Stieglitz though, created this pictorialist movement where photography was being used for art, not for documentation, not for journalistic purpose. It was being used to create art, and they wanted this art to be respected the same way oil paintings and sculpture were. And so the way that they were doing that is through this very soft, blurry focus and framing of the subject itself. So we've seen pictorial style photographs for a very long time in art history. I mean, this is still something people are doing today. It was really its heyday in probably until like 1950, 1960. It lasted a very long time. Maybe not its heyday that late, but it lasted a long time. And then, it started shifting, movements started happening, and things started shifting with how photographers were taking pictures, as did the technology, which often influences the movement.
And then Olin Mills came along and started doing poor color renditions of black and white photos.
Yeah.
Peggy, if looking at this photo, behind his head, does it look to you like there was etching or scratching?
It looks like it was manipulated, and this photographer was known to manipulate the negatives.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be that it was, he went in and kind of scratched up the negative. photo process itself, it's paper that's then laid on a copper, I believe copper plate.
Yep.
So it's a very laborious process as well. So this might be maybe not one of the best developments that came out. And so there's some of that imperfection. And then up in the top right corner, those are deliberate, and that is his name, Eugene. He signed his name.
Okay.
Ah. Well, that's a very stately portrait.
Mhm.
Mhm. It reminds me of Dr. Zhivago.
Does it?
Yes, yes,
Oh,
yes.
Yeah, I
Yes.
totally agree.
A young Dr. Zhivago.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you get a sense of his personality. Then the moodiness, I don't know, he seems like a very serious soul based on this photograph, and his hair, my gosh.
Yeah.
Mm.
I wonder if you met him in person, if that would be the first thing that really jumped out at you, or his nose. It seems his nose is the attention of his face.
Mhm. And the deep set eyes go with it.
But I don't really think they smiled a lot at that time on pictures.
Mhm.
No, I think you're right, Yetta, and part of it had to do with the amount of time development took,
Mhm,
exposure
mhm.
took.
Yeah.
But so I think that's definitely, and he's not doing something kind of crazy with his hands or anything like that. I mean, he's in a position where he can keep it.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
also, I mean, they were of a group that was trying to make things different in the United States for photography, and they wanted to be taken seriously as serious artists. So it was probably a very deliberate choice
Mhm.
to keep a very stoic face.
Mhm.
It's beautiful.
It really is. This is one of the photographs that most American photography collections in the country have a copy of this photograph.
Really? I can see why.
Yeah, it's really beautiful.
Once again, Peggy, you have shown us black and whites that exceed color.
I don't know why I keep gravitating to these black and whites. And you guys, we're doing boats next week, and they're almost all black and white now that you're saying that.
Is this your black and white period, Peggy?
I guess I'm going through, some sort of black and white phase right now. Yeah,
we love
so
it.
we'll be looking at boats, and a lot of them are drawings or etchings, so they'll be black or white.
Mhm.
But yeah, we've done boats before, so I drummed up some different ones than we've seen in the past. So getting ready for this lake weather that hopefully is coming soon. It doesn't feel
So it's getting very warm pretty soon.
yeah, true on Saturday.
What are you doing next week, Peggy?
We're gonna do
Boats. I didn't
boats.
hear. I didn't hear boats. Okay.
Yeah, we're doing boats, and then I think next week I'm doing the 3 different sessions. So if I don't catch you at 10:30, I might see you later in the day.
Absolutely. We look forward to that.
Mhm.
And our friend Barbara will be joining us, so we will
welcome her
That will
warmly.
be our friend. Yes.
Yes.
All right, friends. It was good seeing all of you. Happy Mother's
Thank you,
Day
Miss
to
Peggy.
All right.
celebrating.
Thank you.
Thank
Right.
you.
Oh,
Miss
next
Thank
Peggy.
you.
Peggy.
Thank you.
Yay. Oh, she always enthuses me, doesn't she, you?
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Let's take a look at what's coming up.
All right.
Okay, here we are with portraits for today. 11:30, where in the world is Heather? And I have no idea what she's going to bring. 1:30 today is Nia with Miss Emily. And tomorrow, drum roll.
What about our cafe?
We're going to in just a second. Yes.
This is Wednesday, right?
Yes, it is. A TCU Frog Bingo all day on Thursday. And that's not Monday, May 2nd. It's Thursday. You know me, I have to get those done sometimes. And just because Nancy mentioned that, we are going to stop our recording.